So I'll start by showing you some work from my showreel. Just to give you an idea, because I've been in industry for so long, of the type of variety of work you could be doing in your career as a compositor. And then Socrates will show you some of the recent TV work he has been doing. He was doing at DNAG and Synitos. As Derek said, you'll be able to ask some questions after that. So tutors at Escape obviously have extensive experience in the industry. I've been in the industry too long from the very beginning, but I think that's actually quite fun because I'll show you just a little bit of this history reel that's on Vimeo, so you can watch it at any time anyway. But I think it's interesting because when we want to talk about TV work, traditionally TV work would include, commercials, docudramas, natural history programs, and so on. Of course, these days, when we talk about the new departments that are emerging, we are talking about really Netflix, Amazon, and Disney Plus, and the episodic television that has a lot of visual effects. So I just wanted to put it into context. So I'm just going to run a little bit of this reel to demonstrate the sort of different types of work, we used to do moving around from television commercials to film. So you can have a career like that. So, for example, here I have a sting for MTV, BBC Radio 3 promotion for BBC, Triumph commercial, just to get an idea of this ability to move between the industries. Obviously, Harry Potter castle shot, what we would call a chocolate box shot, creating an atmosphere. Then we have Moaning Myrtle, some shots shot on green screen, some are created in CG, trying to give her a ghost look. All sorts of car commercials, replacing skies, adding lens flares, beautifying the shots. That's all, besides Harry Potter, obviously, being done for television. Historically was done for television. Here we have a pop promo, combining different passes of the same performer, filmed at different times of the day under different lighting conditions. A Honda commercial, Panasonic commercial, so Comdirect, just to give you an idea that as an artist, whenever you enter a part of the industry, I know that a lot of people stay in one part, like film or commercials. Nowadays, they may stay in television, but moving around between different parts of the industry is really what you want to do because it gives you a lot of flexibility and freedom. So again, some shots from Harry Potter. There was Big in the City. This is Harry Potter 7, and so on, all intersected with various commercials and obviously various types of effects that are being required. Here we have, because these effects you could be doing in any part of the industry. So here we have a crowd multiplication. That's a very, very common, that is a very common task you have to do. Here I have a part of Killer Dinosaurs. That was a series for Discovery. And that was a television program. Very, very long. These were 250-minute episodes of dinosaurs. I have that as a separate clip I can show you because obviously a lot of shots were created, of dinosaurs to fill 250-second programs, 50-minute programs, sorry, not seconds. And again, a lot of beauty work. That's what we would consider television work as well. Whatever you can do in Photoshop, doing it on a moving image. I think it's very important, especially now we talk about compositing and finishing, because, 20 years ago, we were finishing artists, and I think we are coming back to that, especially with the emergence of virtual production and so on. I'll come to that in a minute. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what, as an artist, you could be doing in your career. Of course, as I said, we all come from the industry. My last project was also a TV project before I joined Escape. That was Black Mirror. As you can see, I did that in Glassworks. I worked on Hang the DJ and Black Museum. But unfortunately, Netflix doesn't allow us to put shots on the showreels. And as you can see, even the company like Glassworks can show only the trailers. So I can't be showing you that. Unfortunately, you can see, I'm sure a lot of you have seen Black Mirror. Very, very clever programs, obviously for Netflix. Based in a sense, I read interview with the director on that, and they're based very much on a very old series, Tales of Unexpected, but brought to 21st century. So that's something you may want to check out as well. I'm just going to show you what we considered traditionally a TV work, if it was done for documentaries, docudramas. So here I have a whole of one episode of Killer Dinosaurs. Obviously, you don't want to be seeing all that. But I just wanted to tell you that traditionally a TV work was in standard or HD, standard definition or HD. So we could get away with a lot more than we can nowadays, because nowadays we are delivering TV episodic work for Netflix in 4K, or sometimes work on shots 8K plates. But 4K is a delivery. So of course that means that some of the deliveries are higher resolution than film deliveries, because traditionally film delivery was 2K. So when we did work in HD and standard definition, you could get away with much more when you were comping CG like this, right? When you were doing standard definition, you didn't need to be pixel accurate. So times have changed now. So I'm not going to show you much of these clips. I did these 3 jobs at MPC. And it's interesting to see, because of course you can see this, I worked on a Gladiator film, but this was called Colosseum. And obviously the shots you can get away with, let's say, lower resolution, because you're working lower resolution with, you don't need to be that accurate and still create these sequences. Obviously, the budgets were much smaller. Netflix budgets these days are higher, but still not as high as feature film, even though the effects expected are, have to be on the same high-end level. So I just wanted to show you a few bits and pieces, what we traditionally did. And another one, also from MPC, virtual history. That was very interesting. But just think about it in one, one lifetime career, how far we've actually come. Because this, when this was created, again in SD, it looks just like an archive footage, but actually that was obviously done in post. These actors were actually filmed with rigs on their heads that had to be cleaned off, removed, tracking markers removed from the faces, and CG faces placed on top to recreate archive footage that didn't exist, but documentation existed. This is called The Attempt. This is The Attempt to Kill Hitler. A documentary that actually won Visual Effects Society Award. because it was fairly groundbreaking, of course, quite complex. You could have filmed actors with the makeup and the masks, but much more complex route was taken. Of course, again, as I say, not only was it HD, but also the archive type of effect placed on top meant that the quality, the accuracy of the work didn't need to be the level of film work, which of course is very demanding, and you need much higher budgets. So nowadays, of course, Socrates will show you some of his examples, but I just wanted to show you just a short clip from Mandalorian, because that is obviously what the future holds, and that's why first of all, we have such a great demand for television work, and the changes in the actual industry and the opening of all these new TV departments that effectively have been open in the last few years at DNEG, ILM, and some other facilities, or even facilities that were traditionally doing commercials only, or just a television program, are now getting involved in episodic television, of course, creating much more complex effects. I just wanted to show you just bits from the Mandalorian, because of course, this is the future. And at Escape, we've also been trained, we've been taking training in Unreal Engine, because Mandalorian is a typical example of, a virtual production where instead of green screens, LED screens are used, and replacing the green screens, meaning the environments and the surroundings are actually projected onto LED screens. And of course, with the help of Unreal Engine, we can change the camera angles, because the projections were done traditionally a long time ago as well. But these days it's different, because you can change the camera angles and have much better control of the lighting. When we are shooting for lighting, when we are shooting green screens, it's we always have the spills. We don't have the right reflections, and obviously we have to be much more careful when we are positioning the lights. But with the virtual production, you get the natural lights from the projections. And of course, this will save a lot of time in post as well. It doesn't mean that green screen is dead yet, but of course, this is the direction we are moving. So I just wanted to give you that little overview, and then Socrates can show you some of his recent work, because and just for you to be aware that that's the direction we want to be going as well. Escape is now the official trainer for Unreal, so all the tutors will be trained in, be moving into in that direction over time, of course, not straight away, because the industry still needs all the traditional, all the skills we teach. So if you will have any questions later on, of course, please ask. I'm just going to pass on to Socrates for now. But just before I do that, I just wanted to say that, for example, company like the Third Floor, who do previs and post-vis, are worth checking out, because they are obviously getting involved in the virtual production, and it's very interesting, because in a sense, the move towards virtual production means that previs and post-vis, it's all merging together, and the actual production, because you can do things, a lot of things live. So the future of TV production is very exciting, and the fact that there is such a huge demand for content from all the streaming companies means that there is an endless amount of work for our artists. So I'll just pass you on to, I'll stop sharing and pass on to Socrates.
Thanks, Klaudija. So hi, I'm Socrates, as you may have guessed. Just as a quick introduction about me, I'm a senior compositor. I've worked in a few different places, as Klaudija mentioned, DINEG. I would be talking a lot about the TV department in DINEG because I spent 2.5 years there. And I'll talk about my experience in how things, how I witnessed actually the change between what film is, how compers are working on film and how compers are working in TV, and how nowadays we're sort of getting in a kind of a unified approach, I would say, for both film and TV work. I've mentioned DINEG. I assume that you may have heard of the company. For people who haven't, it's I think DINEG is, well, they're famous for a lot of different work that they've done, but since recently Tenet was out, so they're working and they're in close relationship with Christopher Nolan, just for people who may not have heard of the name, I mean of DINEG. And I can tell you that before me joining the TV department, which was relatively new, that was back in 2016, I had both work in TV and film projects. I have worked, one of the biggest projects I have worked back then was the James Bond Spectre. So what I knew is that TV and film are two different mindsets, and there are two different sets of expectations for compers. Film, of course, since it will be projected on the big screen, you would need to have an eye for detail and work many versions, different versions of your shots, where you could have notes with fixing something in the technical side, like if you had even like the small detail on your screen where you were working, since it will be appear on since it would appear on a much bigger screen, it will mean like even the tiniest error there would be magnified. So you really had to revisit and make your final comp, your work, make it as pixel perfect as you could. On the other hand, you saw some of the footage that Klaudija showed you. TV Land was a bit different kind of situation where you would have HD footage. I haven't worked in standard definition. I mainly worked with HD before that. And I could tell you that the challenge there was quick turnarounds, meaning that since it's an episodic format, you'd be assigned like 10 different shots, and they tell you like, okay, now we need those until half of them until Wednesday and the rest of them until Friday, and you have to quickly deliver. So I knew that the aim there was, of course, you have to keep an eye for details, but it was not on the same level. So you'd focus more on tricks and speed and finding the best way, to deliver on time and get as many shots out as you could. And then I guess I could probably maybe pinpoint the time where things started changing on Game of Thrones. So I'm mentioning Game of Thrones because most people are familiar with that, and you may have seen at some point that the budget for a single episode started relatively low, let's say, given for TV and film standards, but then towards the latest season, it went like really huge. So the whole approach to what we were aiming to in terms of TV production skyrocketed as well. So we were these different channels and the different streaming platforms, pushing the boundaries more and more. And my first experience with TV, where I was getting footage that wasn't HD, was in a TV show called Young Pope from HBO. So this was, have a bit of a teaser that I could share with you.
Your Holiness, your sins.
I don't have any sins to confess. I'm a contradiction. Like God.
Who are you, Lenny?
Everything.
People say you're a saint.
You're just a blue-eyed kid. I was supposed to be Pope.
I see Christ's reflection in you.
Il potere conoscenza. I know how to get him to resign.
You want to make the world pay for the wrong it did you? You'll be a terrible Pope. The worst.
I'm ready to wage a war without end against you.
They chose a pope they didn't know, and today they began to understand.
What do you intend to do?
Revolution.
So the director for this show was Paolo Sorrentino. You probably know him because he won an Oscar for The Great Beauty as a film director. So that was his first TV show, and that was a challenge for him. You know, he was working on a different format, and a challenge for us as compers, because as you saw, it's Jude Law who is becoming the new Pope, and the kind of shots that we were getting was, Klaudija mentioned before, some wig shots. So there were wigs that we had to sort of paint and adjust on the actors, and a lot of crowd replications, because he would speak at the Vatican, and the like the crowd would be there to hear him. So that's two of the pretty standard comp tasks that you maybe ask. But the trick here was that everything was 4K, and I mentioned before that since it's television, they expect it to deliver really fast. And so I was getting some wig shots, which I had to kind of paint some details that when they adjusted the wig on the actors, there will be a few details like the place where they would get glue that would maybe stick out, and I had to remove this. So it felt like, in terms of a task, it felt pretty straightforward, but the resolution and the detail that we were aiming for the show meant that I would now have to combine both a quick turnaround and the eye for the detail. So it's the case was that now I had to both use the techniques and the style I was using for film work for a TV show. And things started changing because, as I mentioned, budgets and TV shows were becoming more and more standing, more and more demanding, which for us, working as artists, working as compers, is a good thing, because before, when you would walk in a company, they would ask you, okay, so we're hiring for a film. Have you worked in something, have you worked in a film project? And then you would show them your film work and they will be satisfied. But if you had TV work, probably people will double think it, because there will be some sort of a difference. They would treat like, if you were, for example, if you were a mid compositor in television, you could be a junior compositor for films, because they would expect that you haven't had the chance to, see the bigger resolutions or the bigger demand for details. So you had to sort of prove yourself more and more to join, from a TV working background to a film one. But yes, things are changing, and I could show you Then the next project, one of the big projects that I've worked on in TV, is called Alter Carbon. That was a sci-fi project from Netflix. And the next step in challenge in that, apart from the 4K, was that it had the project was HDR. HDR stands for high dynamic range, which means that they were targeting televisions which could display like the colors and the brightness with really high, like a big, it could display all the different kind of colors and grading, like really lifelike. So that was, apart from having the shots that we work on being projected on, on screens, we had to use a special, DNEG provided a special television that we could display in HDR. And because of the different way that we were seeing the footage, it meant like extra work for us, or an extra eye for details. I could show you my show reel because I have a few shots from this project. So this is from Alter Carbon. Of course, you'll see some film work apart from television work, but have a lot of television stuff in there. That's Doctor Who, the latest TV show. You can probably tell that this is Pinocchio, a film that was recently released. This one is a TV show, actually. I'll talk about this in a bit. So let me find. So this was Alter Carbon, and it was 10 episodes of 4K HDR footage. And I wouldn't say it's the exact same thing as the recent Blade Runner, but at the same time, it's a TV show that is aiming really high in terms of the different shots and the styles that they have there. You can see that the world that appears there and the details and everything together, it's something that we wouldn't imagine some years ago, having that in television. But again, it's different streaming platforms and different channels that are trying to push more and more in boundaries. So that means that we have to make the extra mile as Converse. And I can show you, this is Avengers. But I wanted to show you, so let me move this one forward a bit. Yes, I wanted to show you this one, which is, it's a Marvel TV project called Inhumans. So what is happening there is they wanted to have this creature, this huge magic dog called Lockjaw. And again, that was a new kind of challenge, because this kind of big creatures, you would expect them to find them in film projects, but this TV show had this creature, so that meant that you couldn't distinguish anymore what's a film project and which one is a TV, since you would find the sort of same elements and the same kind of challenges. This is a huge creature, it's a CG creature. And the good and interesting thing about us, apart from working in stunning TV shows, is that in terms of work, as Klaudija mentioned, it's good to have the flexibility to work between film and TV. So now that the standards have changed and TV is on the same level in terms of what you're getting there, it's easier to make the jump between the two. And I can give you an example of, even though I didn't work on the project, at when MPC one of the other big VFX companies was working on Lion King. You probably have seen the trailer for Lion King. Had an interview with them, and they asked me, okay, so they were expecting, again, it's what I've mentioned before, that they're expecting to do some film work, and they asked me, oh, have you worked in CG creatures with big CG creatures before? And I think it was really interesting to say that I could show a big CG creature from a TV show, which it was something that I guess some years ago I couldn't do something similar. So I was able, even though I picked a different offer at the time, it's good that I had an interview where I could prove my skills through for a film, through a TV project. So yes, it's I think those worlds are coming together, and it's kind of interesting also that apart from saying that TV is getting on film standards, I feel like since there are more players appearing, like the recent Disney Plus and the recent ILM TV department, I feel like TV is also becoming an area where people could experiment more, or new technologies could arise, like the example of, I think Klaudija quickly showed you on that video, the use of virtual production, which means one of the things that they're doing, instead of having the traditional green screen behind the elements, they could use a big specialized LED screen, and they could have the backgrounds there. So the kind of work that we would do would change. So yes, TV is becoming a field where you could get into innovations as well.